Hi everybody, I'm Dave Lynch. I'm the city manager for Newton Falls, and welcome to Newton Falls Television. This is our production of a program that we call Meet Your Public Servant. And our first guest on Meet Your Public Servant is the Superintendent of Schools of the Newton Falls Exempted School District, Paul Woodard. Paul, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. I've always wondered why you're an exempted school district. Are you exempt from anything in particular, exempt from the influenza, or what are you guys exempt from?
There's a lot of exempted village school districts around the state of Ohio, and I think it makes you exempt from taxes, maybe? No, that's not it.
That'd be a good deal. Paul, we're so glad that you're here. It's springtime. The girls are behind us. That's the high school varsity girls, right?
That's right.
And they're playing Liberty tonight?
Yeah, they have a home game tonight against Liberty, and our girls are doing pretty well this year.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Well, the school's a very exciting place to be. What kind of things are going on this spring?
Well, in the springtime, this time of the year, we have a lot going on. Besides our softball and baseball and our track teams, we have both buildings gearing up for different programs. This Friday, our senior class is going to be working in the city, and they've done this for several years now, where they'll go around and beautify the city. It's kind of a give back day by the senior class.
Sure.
And they do a terrific job of planting flowers and painting and weeding and doing whatever projects needs done in the city, and they do a really good job with that. I go out there and I help them shovel mulch and do different things with them. We plant trees, and we've been doing that for several years. At the elementary school, it's the time now where it's almost time for Grandparents' Day, where the grandparents come in and get a chance to have breakfast with their grandchildren, and then the kids get to go home early. Right now, a lot of state testing going on. We're getting towards the latter stages of that, and we've been in that for several weeks, so we've been in the testing mode. And it's a busy time here. Graduation's right around the corner, and there's the prom coming up for the juniors and the seniors, so
very exciting times.
Very exciting, and there's a lot going on here. Every day there's something going on at Newton Falls.
Yeah, I've noticed that you're engaged in the district. You're not one of these guys that shows up at start time and then turns off the lights in the office at 4 o'clock and then disappears until the next morning. You're always present. Is this something you've done throughout your career?
It is. This is my 30th year in education, Dave, and I've been a coach, and I've pretty much been in every position there is in a school system: athletic director, principal, assistant principal, special ed director, teacher. I've coached multiple sports. And
what sports have you coached?
I've coached varsity basketball, varsity golf, junior high track.
Varsity golf, that's got to be the best thing to coach in the world, because you basically, you turn them loose and wait, right?
Well, kind of, but if you're trying to do a good job with the kids, you're going to spend some time using video cameras and looking at their swings and trying to help them get better.
Yeah, but you're out on some beautiful golf course somewhere.
Well, when I first started coaching varsity golf, which was about 27 years ago, the coaches actually went out and played a few holes with each other while the kids were out playing, but they don't allow that to happen now because the courses are so crowded. They don't let the coaches go out. You just kind of walk around with your kids and help them out. So.
That sounds great. Can you imagine seeing some student of yours out on the golf course and imagining, now that's a future Tiger Woods or something like that? That's be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. Golf's a great game. You can play it at a young age and all the way. You can play it with somebody that's 80 years old.
What's it really feel like when a freshman in high school can outdrive you? That's got to be pretty humbling. Well, but I'm sure it happens a lot, huh?
Back when I was 27 years ago, there weren't too many freshmen that could outdrive me, but now probably everybody on the team could.
Well, the 7th graders outdriving you, right?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Listen, before we get the details of the school system, obviously you've been very hands-on. Tell me about your career path. Where'd you go to college? Where were you from? How did you get into this gig?
Well, I got into education, I think basically because there were some educators in my life that really made a difference. I played high school basketball, played high school golf. I ended up playing a little bit of golf in college. And my high school basketball coach was really instrumental in being a mentor to me.
Sure.
I came from a broken home when I was in high school. My parents got divorced when I was 16, and spent a lot of time alone there for a year or so. My coach at times would take me home and even bought me dinner a few times, and he was very influential in my life. And I think just having those kind of people in my life, and there were other coaches and teachers.
So you played varsity basketball?
Yeah,
as
I
well?
played varsity basketball and varsity golf. I had a really nice group of guys that played golf with me.
What position did you play in basketball? You look like you must have been a guard, but the way sizes have changed.
I was a 6-foot point guard.
6-foot point guard.
Yeah, I was one of the
Okay.
bigger point guards in the Portage County
Yeah.
League, and played with
Well,
a
that's
nice
an
group of kids.
advantage.
Yeah, I had my center played tight end at Ohio State, so I had some athletes around me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, these days the point guards are all tall though. Just seems like they're not. It's not the. There are no more Spud Webbs out there, are there?
No, but back when I was a senior in high school, I was the tallest point guard in the county. So
Oh my gosh! And then you played golf. Now you went to which college?
I went to. Well, actually, I started out at Slippery Rock, and I did get a golf scholarship to go there. That was Division II, but I transferred back to the University of Akron. I had to sit out a year.
Okay.
But I did make the golf team there, and then after about a year, I had got sick with a disease, and I ended up stepping away from school for a little bit so I could get things in order. And then when I went back to Akron U, I did not play golf. I finished up my teaching degree, and then a few years later, I went to Ashland University and did all my graduate
Sure.
work.
Ashland Eagles.
Ashland Eagles.
That's the gold and purple, right?
That's right. They're
Yeah.
tough. They're good
Yeah.
basketball. I think their girls' basketball is one of the best in the country.
Yeah. Well, one of the Cavaliers coach, Bill Musselman, was the head coach at Ashland for a while.
That's correct.
And I think they drove for a national championship in the men's division back then.
Did they?
Yeah, that was, it's quite a university. All right, so you went to Ashland, got a degree in education, and then how did you wind your way over to Newton Falls? What pathway did you take?
Well, I started out, I did 1 year at Southeast, and I just was just getting out of school, and I did some tutoring and was doing some driver's education classes in the evening. I didn't get behind the wheel with them, but I did some driver's education classes in the evening.
Oh, man. So you were in the classroom with them.
Yes. And
Did you have to show movies like The Last Prom and all that stuff?
No, back then it was a lot of book work. There were some movies.
Yeah.
Back then it was reel-to-reel movies, overheads, those things. I don't even
Oh,
know if
yeah,
they exist
overhead
anymore.
projectors. Remember the opaque projector?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. You probably had mimeograph machines.
Well, that was a little before my time.
Okay, Shunny.
Yeah, that was a
Okay.
little before my time. But after I did 1 year at Southeast, I went to Crestwood, and I spent 15 years of my career there teaching, coaching. I became the athletic director and assistant principal, did a lot of my coaching there. And after I left Crestwood, I went back to my alma mater where I had graduated at Waterloo, and I became the middle school principal and special ed director. And
The favorite son comes home.
what was funny about it was 8 of the staff members, when I went there the first year, had me in their classrooms in 7th and 8th grade, and I was now their boss.
Oh, that had to be a weird feeling. You know, my wife's education, and every now and then she's dealing with some parent, and she realizes that parent was one of her students. It's a strange feeling, but it's a gratifying feeling, isn't it?
It is, yeah. You know you're getting old when your students come back and their kids are starting to be in your class. That happened a long time ago for me.
Oh
so.
my gosh. Well, that's great. What were you teaching basically during that period of time?
I did social studies at the high school and junior high level, and then I taught for 10 years, and then I've been in administration now for 20 years.
20 years. What made you make that crossing the pathway from the teaching element into administration? Because not all teachers really want that.
Right. I wasn't sure I did, because the last couple years that I coached, we won championships in Portage County, and they hadn't won any in basketball in over 25 years when I took over the job, but we won back-to-back championships.
That's a story all by itself.
It is. It is. I had a lot of great kids.
You know, at some schools, the head basketball coach is a much bigger, more important person than the principal. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. I actually tried to stay coaching and going to administration. And the way it kind of happened was the superintendent pulled me out of a bargaining session. I was the vice president of the union. We were in a bargaining session. He pulled me out at a recess, and he said he wanted to make me an administrator and offered me a raise, told me to think about it. And about 2 weeks later, after talking to my wife and some friends, I ended up going into administration. And I had a principal at Crestwood that kept trying to get me to go into administration. He felt like I would do a good job. So again, another mentor situation. There's somebody that really influenced me and made a difference in my life, kind of steered me down the path of being an administrator.
Well, you know, my experience, I've done some coaching, not at the level you are, but I found that the management techniques involved with coaching are pretty much universal in managing people. Have you found that as well?
Oh yeah, they are. I think coaching kids, dealing with kids with all the things that are going on in their life, it definitely relates to what you're going to do in administration or even in the business world, because I've been in the business world a little bit too. And I think it helps you with relationships a lot, and you get a chance to learn compassion, discipline, all the things that go along with trying to be a good mentor and a good administrator.
Yeah, I have found that, especially in the coaching realm, I'm not exactly sure why that is, but if you connect with a kid 20 or 30 years later, you find that you're still meaningful and important. That kid will say, you know, you changed my life. And I'm sure you've had that conversation. It kind of makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it?
It does. Actually, a lot of the kids that played on my championship teams, we've kept in touch. I've been a deacon at a church for 25 years, and when our pastor's out, I'll preach. I'll take the pulpit and preach, and whenever I do that, I send out a text, and a lot of the guys that were on my championship teams back in '99 and 2000, they come and they hear me preach, and they bring their kids, and it's really neat to see them. And we actually got together this year for a 20th reunion of one of their championships that they had, and they're still in my life, and they were an integral part of my life, and it's been really neat seeing them grow up and seeing now they're in the stage that I was when I was coaching. Some of them have 4 and 5 kids now, and they're the same age I was when I coached them.
Well, you know, I think one of the great thrills that coaches have is when you find a kid who has almost no confidence at the beginning, and you slowly but surely build. I can remember there was one girl on my daughter's team, and she had very little confidence, but I knew she had a good shooting eye. And we ran a play and built up her confidence where she'd get isolated and she'd just make an outside jump shot. And nobody thought she could do such a thing because she kind of sat quietly on the bench. And we put her in, we ran that play, she made the shot. That shot still reverberates in her life and the confidence that instilled in her. I'm sure you've seen kids do that.
Well, I'll tell you a real quick story. After I'd done all the varsity coaching, I went back to Waterloo and I was a principal. I coached junior high basketball for a couple years to help out actually the coach that I had in high school. He was still coaching varsity ball, so I said, I'll help you out and I'll coach junior high for you. I had a young man that had cerebral palsy, and I kept him on the team. And we were in the middle of a game. And I had talked to the coach beforehand, and I put him in the game, and I said, if he gets the ball down close to the basket, I said, you know, tell you guys to just take it easy on him, you know, give him a chance. So it was a beautiful thing. He got the ball down close to the basket, and they backed up and let him shoot it, and he missed it, but the ball came right back to him.
Got the rebound.
And he threw it up again, and it banked and went in. And he went running down the court with his hand up in the air, screaming and yelling. I can't even talk about it. It brought tears to my eyes.
There are moments like that that they're a treasure.
And
of course, all these kids are a treasure. And so now you find yourself in the lofty position as the superintendent of schools. By the way, did it take a while to get used to that when you actually became the superintendent?
It did.
Because, you know, you have to be humble in what you do, but you have to get used to people halfway saluting when you walk into a room, don't you?
Well, I know when I came here in 2011, this is my 8th year as the superintendent here, and this was my first superintendent job. And when I came here, somebody had told me, when you become a superintendent, you're going to find out of all the positions you've had, Paul, it's going to be a lonely position. And they were right in a lot of aspects. There's a lot of times, but thankfully, I've got great people around me here. I've had good administrators, good administrative assistants, people that have been here, and they've really helped me feel welcome here and helped me with everything that I've been through.
That's great. Well, you know, it says in the Bible, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. So sometimes you'll see the superintendent sweeping up after a ball game or something, right?
Yeah. I've not had to do that yet, but I would do it if I needed it.
All right. Well, Newton Falls is a very special place. The schools are very dynamic. We talked about the athletic programs. Have you had great success in athletic programs here at Newton Falls, and what kind of programs do you have available?
Newton Falls is traditionally known for being a very good basketball program, and we've had a lot of success over the years with our boys basketball program, and recently our girls basketball has been very competitive. But we've got other teams too in the fall. Our girls volleyball team has been to the regionals a couple times here in the last few years. We've also got soccer, football, and track. in the spring, along with softball and baseball. And we usually have a couple of kids that make it down to the state championship, and we've even had state champions in the last few years in track.
That's pretty exciting. One of the things I've noticed too is that it's counterintuitive, but sometimes the kids that are most involved in athletics are some of the highest academic achievers. Can you explain that? Because it seems to me you wouldn't have as much time to hit the book. So what causes that that positive anomaly?
I think, my experience, especially being a coach for many years, has been that the kids that do get involved in sports are disciplined, and they're kids that usually a lot of them are good students. They're disciplined. They go home in the evenings. They do their homework. They prepare for tests. They've got structure, and they're motivated. And many of them end up being leaders and going out into the world and being doctors and lawyers and leaders in business that I've seen, the ones that I've coached over the 20-year period that I coached. And even here at Newton Falls, a lot of our kids are very successful, and they're just those kids that are disciplined and they want to really get involved in things.
Sure. Sports obviously is a big part of success, but you've got great extracurricular activities over there at Newton Falls as well, don't you?
We do. We have just a terrific choir and band program here at Newton Falls.
Yeah, they performed over at the Veterans Day program, and it was just unbelievable.
Oh, they're great. Mark Semmerau is our band and choir director. He does a terrific job with the kids. He has a great relationship with them, and it's amazing how many great voices come out of here every year.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of great voices coming out of many different schools, but I'm very impressed with what I hear here. The kids oftentimes will do talent shows and things of that nature here, and you hear a lot of people that can sing and have a lot of talents, playing instruments, and just multi-talented kids.
You realize your remarks constitute you volunteering the band for some kind of citywide musical that I'll be directing sometime in the fall. Is that all right with you?
As long as you'll play a part in it.
Okay. We'll have to see about that. All right. Well, great things going on. But I saw one of your talks recently, which you talked about a robotics program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this year we have an assistant principal that came in this year and had a little bit of background in robotics and STEM classes, and he was able to get a couple of our teachers involved helping him.
You talked about STEM. What does STEM stand for, Paul?
STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And we have those programs getting started now in our science junior high programs, and we're going to try to move that up into the high school. We have a little bit of that going on now. But we're trying to get kids geared for the 21st century and the different occupations that are out there when it comes to those type of things. And STEM for us hopefully will continue to evolve, go from science to the math classes, and we'll just see it expanding over the next few years.
And that's another way of attracting more kids into the district, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We're trying to, even though it's been rough here, pretty much the 8 years I've been here when it comes to our finances, we're trying to stay competitive so that kids are going to want to come here and they'll be competitive when they go to college or out into the workforce.
Sure. Well, let's talk about some of the challenges then. You mentioned some of the economics have been pretty tough. You've done a number of things in order to streamline your spending over at the schools, haven't you?
We have. We've had to really tighten the belts pretty much ever since I came here. The first year I came here, we didn't have a lot of money in the general fund. In the first year or two I was here, we cut over $1 million in different things. We've always had to cut through attrition, but just in the 8 years I've been here, we've had to cut 32 staff members. Last year we closed our elementary school and moved the kids up to the...
I want you to slow up for just a minute. You said cut 32 staff members. That includes cutting teachers, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's got to be a painful thing to do if you're in the educational field.
It's the worst thing I have to do, I can tell you that, when I have to go to a teacher and tell them that I no longer have a job for them next year. It's really tough, and we've cut, I think, 18 or 19 teachers just in the 8 years that I've been here.
Yeah, and some of your support staff has had to been cut as well, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. But we've had to try to get creative. We've cut. We had to close the elementary school this past year. We've done things right now, like we have shared service, things that we're trying to do with different schools. A few years ago, we shared our technology coordinator with Lordstown for a year. And then this year and next year, we're going to be sharing our school psychologist with Lordstown. That in itself saves us $25,000 by letting them use her 1 day a week. And
could I borrow the psychologist for some of the members of City Council, you think?
I think we could do an MOU on that.
I don't know if I'd pass that test. But so you're sharing services, obviously. That's one way of helping to streamline things. But you can only cut so far, right?
That's right.
You're down to the bone at this stage?
Yeah, a couple years ago, we actually had to borrow money to meet our payroll in the summertime, and we can't do that again. We did pass a levy in 2015, but we've lost 450 some students just in the last 8 years, which equates to $2.7 million. And we have to figure out a way to get more money in the general fund.
Now, you've come up with a solution for that, at least a proposed solution.
There's a proposed one.
Let's hear what it is. In fact, it's on the ballot in May, right?
It is.
What's election day this?
May 7th.
May 7th, okay.
We have an earned income tax for 1.75% on the ballot. And coincidentally, there's 610 school districts in the state of Ohio, and 197 of those school districts have now went to some kind of an income tax.
Well, it makes sense because it's really based on your ability to pay because it's an income tax. So it's not so restrictive and really punishing for those people on a fixed income that a property tax is.
It is, and ours is an earned income tax, so it's an income tax only on people that are working, that live in the Newton Falls area, in the township or the city. Senior citizens, this is a good deal for you if you're not working and you own your own home, because what we're going to do, if it passes May 7th, it'll go into effect January of 2020, and we would at that time allow the 6.2 emergency levy that's on there evaporate or dissolve, so you wouldn't have to pay that. And that would be a break for everybody on their property tax come January. Then a few years later, when the second 4.8 emergency levy that's on there would die out, we would allow that to expire, and that would save people money even on the income tax with their property tax. But if you're a senior citizen, you're going to get a couple of tax breaks in the next few years that you haven't had in a long time.
Well, I want to make sure I put that in perspective. What it means is if you're a senior citizen, Paul, if you don't have earned income, you're going to reduce property taxes rather significantly. And then in terms of the earned income tax, since you don't have earned income, you don't have to pay any of that. So this is a great way to transition from a regressive tax that punishes those that are on a fixed income and transition to really have this paid by people who are in a better position to pay it. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, that's right, Dave. And I know a 1.75% earned income tax could be tough on people that are working with their budgets. However, the state funding has not kept up with the issues that smaller school districts have had over the years, and many districts have lost kids in enrollment. And back in the 90s, the DeRolf case went to the Supreme Court, I believe, 3 times and found the way we fund our schools unconstitutional. And we have to figure out a way to try to keep the doors open here at Newton Falls, and we're trying to, with a 1.75 earned income tax, raise about $2.1 million for the general fund. And if we can do that, hopefully the school funding over the next few years will change a little bit. There are a couple proposals out there, nothing etched in stone yet, however.
I've heard the governor's talking about taking a lead role, in the new governor, on solving some of these problems. But clearly, the Ohio Supreme Court has multitudinous times said that funding schools through property taxes is absolutely unconstitutional. In the meantime, I think the state legislature has kind of left you in the lurch, left you on your own to have to come up with creative solutions like this.
We do, and you've seen it around us even. There's been a couple of school districts that have had to shut their doors, and we don't want that to happen here. There's a lot of hometown pride here in Newton Falls. I've seen that in the 8 years I've been here. We call it Tiger Pride. There's a lot of people that grew up here, went to school here, and decided to raise their family and send them to school here. And the problem is down the road, if we can't pay our bills and we have to consolidate with someone, we would have to pay their property tax, and we have one of the lowest around. So if that would happen, not only would you lose your school, but you would be paying a higher property tax anyway. So this is a 5-year earned income tax. We would like people to get behind it and vote for it, and let's see where we're at in 5 years and let those other property taxes fall off and see if we can't get funding to go a little bit more in the way it should go for our public schools. And hopefully by raising $2.1 million, we'll be able to not have this deficit all the time that we're constantly battling back and forth with.
Sure, sure. The other thing is, this is investment in the kids and allows younger folks, that is, people that have families with children in the schools, to play a more active role and participate in the school system while giving their grandparents much deserved break.
That's correct. And that's what the board, I think, was looking at, that we need to raise $2.1 million, we figured, to be able to carry it out for 5 to 10 years. And then, like I said, hopefully things will get going in the right direction with school funding, even with enrollment. Hopefully some, people will be moving into the district. You never know. We might get the Missile Defense Center here, and if that happened, that would be great for the Newton Falls area.
Yeah. Well, the schools obviously are paving the way for the success of the city itself. And we all know that people, in their first consideration, where do they move, where do they locate a business, first thing they look at is the quality of the school system.
That's correct. And this is a nice town. If you drive through it, you get the feeling that if I lived here, it'd be nice. I could actually walk uptown and go into the stores and the restaurants with my children. There's a park here. We got a beautiful falls here, a nice school with a nice campus with beautiful buildings here. When you drive through, if you don't know anything about it, those are the things you think. Because I know before I ever came here 8 years ago, that's what I thought. And a lot of times what I would come into Newton Falls for was the fireworks celebration on July 4th. I mean, everybody's heard of that.
Well, listen, these kids that people see out on the field right now, they're kind of counting on the rest of the community to support this. It's on May 7th is the vote. And the other thing that I think people need to be aware of is the fact that when you've got a vote like this, it's the kind of vote that, because it's on a primary vote day, sometimes voter turnout is somewhat delayed, or rather non-existent. I shouldn't say delayed. Some people think, well, it's not that important that I come out because it's only a primary. In a case like this can make the difference, really, in the survival of the school system here in Newton Falls, and they need to get out on May 7th.
They do, and like I was saying before, we just can't keep putting the burden on the property tax owner. And if we did that right now, if we tried to generate that type of income to keep our school functioning, our millage would be over 19, and we can't do that to senior citizens. So the board was looking at this. Let's take a look at this. Let's try this. Let's have it for 5 years. Let's see where we're at in 5 years, and if there's something better in 5 years, we'll adjust. We'll do what we need to do and do the right thing for the people and for the kids of this town.
Well, I want to congratulate you on the quality of the school system, the great kids coming out of the system, the success you've had, and also to wish you good luck on May 7th. I know the citizens listening to this know that we have something great and they want to protect us. So thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me. And
sure.
I know that we've been trying to work hand in hand with one another here, and I know that relationship will continue.
Well, folks, you've been watching on Newton Falls Television, Meeting Your Public Servant. Paul Woodard's been our guest, and I thank you so much. We'll see you next month for another edition of Meet Your Public Servant.